So, should your business dump Windows for the Linux desktop? Let's check out this article. What's up, guys? It's Josh back with another video, and today I want to do some more news. I saw this interesting article and it's mainly about businesses and should they dump Windows for the Linux desktop. And this article, like I said, was super interesting, and it mainly highlights how GitLab uses exclusively Mac OS and Linux as the Linux desktops that are used within the organization. So let's check out this article right fast. Okay, so this article is on the Register. So check it out. It's dealing with security. It's under the tag word security, but it says businesses should dump Windows for the Linux desktop. It makes perfect sense for enterprises as well as enthusiasts. Just ask GitLab. And if you don't know what GitLab is, it's essentially the same thing as GitHub. And so let's go down and read a little bit on the article, but it says opinion. I've been preaching the gospel of the Linux desktop for more years than some of you have been alive. Yeah, I have too, you know what I'm saying? Super cool. But however, unless you argue that the Linux desktop includes Androids, smartphones, and Chrome OS laptops, there will be no year of the Linux desktop. But there should be. For example, as GitLab recently revealed in its onboarding document for employees, staffers can run Mac OS and they can run Linux on the desktops. So that's super cool. And then it says, but Windows, forget about it. So they don't even use Windows throughout their organization. So that's super dope. And that makes me want to go apply for a position at GitLab, you know, see if I can get hired on. Especially since they favor, you know, Linux and Mac OS, which I don't really care for Mac OS either, but you know, you can run Linux, you know, and that lets you know that some places or some businesses out there are starting to move to the Linux desktop environment, especially with a lot of the changes that are being made to Linux, where it can work with Active Directory a whole lot better, like Ubuntu. I know for sure they made some updates to make it so you can add them to the domain and all that, domain controllers and all that stuff, put them on a domain. It's super cool, which that's been around for a while, but it's been improving over the years. But it says why GitLab explained due to Microsoft Windows dominance in desktop operating systems, Windows is the platform most targeted by spyware, viruses, and ransomware, which is 100% true. A lot of times they target those platforms because they're mostly used throughout the world, and a lot of times they're not being patched, especially like overseas. In certain instances, they don't get as many updates, you know what I'm saying, and a lot of times they don't manage the systems the best, you know, that they can by putting these different patches on the systems, and they end up getting, you know, spyware, viruses, and all that other stuff, ransomware. And it does happen in the US as well. I'm not saying the US is immune to it. They do patch here in the US because of the issues that they find, you know, 0 days and all that stuff. So there are issues throughout the world, including the US. But it says, indeed it is, but Windows security mess has never been just because Windows is more popular. I'd argue Windows is insecure by design. And that's an interesting, you know, statement right there. Let's read a little more and see what he's talking about. But it says today's Windows is still built on a standalone PC operating system foundation, and that's true. It was never ever meant to work in a networked world. So security holes that exist back in the day of Windows for work groups 1991 are still with us today in 2022 and Windows 11. Most of these problems come down to Windows having inter-process communication, so IPCs, that move information from one program to another, which have no security in their design, which is, yeah, that's true. Windows and its applications rely on these procedures to get work done. Over the years, they've included dynamically linked libraries, so that's the DLLs, object linking and embedding, OLE, control extensions, OCXs, and ActiveX. No matter what they're called, they do the same work, and they do it with no regard for security. And then also it says, adding insult to injury, Microsoft data formats can hold programming macros. That's why Microsoft Office formats are commonly used to transmit malware. And that's 100% true. If you've used, I don't know, Kali Linux, I can't remember the name of the application in there, but you can create, documents with malware in it, like Microsoft Word documents, and it heavily depends on macros running. It has to be enabled and all that stuff. As long as someone opens it up, enable those macros, then a virus or something in the background can install on your system. And it says Microsoft finally bought a clue that they should block Office from running macros by default. And I remember when that happened. And that's why they had a little pop-up now that was, supposedly the fix. But if you, run macros, when it pops up, then it will, it will still run that, virus or whatever on your system via those macros and everything. But it says, this has only been a major security hole since Melissa wreaked havoc on the Windows World 1999. But guess what? Showing that Microsoft still doesn't know how to fix the fundamental security problems, the team at Redmond HQ have rolled back Office macro block. Why? Because people use these IPCs to get work done, giving a choice between security and having applications work as expected. Yeah, and that's true. That's true. If they rolled it back, that's crazy, you know what I'm saying? But they want the application. It's like security versus convenience. That's essentially what I get from that. But it says Microsoft often chooses the insecure status quo. Making matters worse, another problem with Windows single user ancestry is that the default Windows users all too often must run as the all-powerful PC administrator. And that's true. You know what I'm saying? When you create an account on Windows, it is an administrator account. It allows you to do any and everything on the system. And so therefore, if an application runs on the system, it has that little pop-up. But if you hit yes, it's going to do whatever it wants to do, to the system. It says this means, of course, that when malware does break in, which it will, it gets to file up everything and anything on a user's PC. Not all versions of Microsoft are equally awful, as GitLabs and others point out. Windows Home Edition is notoriously hard to secure. And let me kind of stop. Let me skip ahead. I just wanted to show you guys. So instead, GitLabs demands that employees use either macOS or Dell Linux laptops. And if you guys didn't know, Dell has Linux laptops, or laptops that are built to specifically run Linux that you could purchase, and they'll come with whatever distribution you want on it. I think it's a few that you can pick from, but you can select what you want on it, or you can just get it with no OS on it and install it when you get it at the house. So that's super dope. But it says now you don't have to run Ubuntu, which is the default Dell XPS 13 operating system, as Dell also supports RHEL workstation, also a fine desktop environment operating system. Or you could opt for Arch Linux, which is super dope. I love seeing Arch Linux in articles. That's like one of my favorite distributions, or FreeBSD, or whatever have you, so long as it's actively updated and support, which is, you definitely want to get one like that. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to get no off brand distribution that's only been around for a while and it's only like one or two people maintaining the operating system. Some of these small distributions, you kind of want to stick to one of those distributions that has a large community, a large support team, and all that good stuff. But I'm sorry to say, GitLabs won't support you with your Linux desktop. You'll need to do that yourself, darn it, which, you know, it's not hard. It's not hard. If you can figure out the issues that you run into on Windows, you can figure out the issues on Linux. A lot of times with these modern desktop environments on the Linux operating system, it's very user friendly, you know, especially if you're using one of those major distributions. And it says, I and many other Linux users can do that, but not everyone can. I understand why GitLabs does it this way. And that's why, you know, I'm sure that's why they have Mac OS there as well, because a lot of people use Macs. So it's not that, you know, difficult for them to, you know, use that for work, for their work computer. But it says supporting end users is expensive. I'm sure most of their users work with Macs. Yeah, and that's true. That's they took the words right out of my mouth in this article. But it says, but let's say you haven't decided to go with a Mac, which are, after all, expensive. Let's say you're still using Windows. That's a safe bet. But if you really want security and stability, Linux is the best choice. So take a look at what you're paying for Windows licensing support and your often futile attempts to secure it. Then look at what it would cost to use a business supported Linux distribution such as Rail Desktop, Canonical, Ubuntu Desktop for enterprises, and SUSE Linux Enterprise Desktop. And chances are it will be cheaper to go with Linux. And no matter how the numbers work out, I can guarantee you it will be far more secure. And that's 100% true. You know what I'm saying? Linux is by far more secure than Windows, you know, especially, you know, for a smaller business is cheaper. You know, if you have a small business, then this is something you might want to look into. And I've done videos on showing people how to set up, you know, a whole environment using Linux. You know what I'm saying? You got your Linux, you know, servers. You can set up your web server for your business. You can set up, you know, different types of servers, share drives on your network using Linux. You know what I'm saying? For all the users on your network, it's super cool. You know what I'm saying, to actually use. And so that closes out this article. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. You know what I'm saying? And this is just this article was just a good read, and it's something I think business owners need to look into. I mean, you're starting to see this more and more, like more companies are starting to switch their organizations and switch their systems to either Mac OS or Linux, like a mixed environment, because you can, you know, do just as much with Linux that you could do with, you know, Windows, and you save money. You know, at the end of the day, businesses are always looking at the overhead. You know, this will, you know, lower the cost of the operating systems, you know, all that good stuff within the business. So please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, leave comments down in the comments below. And of course, keep it techie.